like, it's like you're dating, right? It's like you're dating and you're on Tinder and you're just another agency that people are swiping through. But when you find someone that you actually like, you court them, maybe you get engaged at some point, you get married, you have kids, whatever. We see that as a partnership. And the whole goal of an agency is to build partnerships with the businesses that they serve. That's simply what it boils down to. Because when you could build a partnership, that feels less replaceable than just someone that is swiping to the next agency.
What's up, everybody? We are back. You have your boy Nick Shackelford and Joshua Johnston, Joshi Kobayashi, and it is a whole new season, and we are back for some incredible, engaging conversations. We might have some interviews, but a lot of this year, the feedback that we got was like, go deeper, stay specific on some topics, don't necessarily have a lot of guests in to have different perspectives. We're probably going to pull a couple of guests here and there, but Josh and I have our businesses have continued to grow, and we're into different spaces and roles, and there's just a lot of things to talk about. And I figured January is a big shakeup in the agency space. We're kind of moving into February, almost done. I mean, February is pretty much over. We're literally recording this at the end of February, coming into March. So Q1 is almost a thing of the past. And the number one thing that was kind of like on my mind as I'm going through pitches, as I'm talking about fulfillment, is, does size matter? And I say this and everyone giggles and everyone's like, oh, yeah. I mean, no, like if your wife or your husband says anything different for you, that's a conversation you guys need to kind of to have with them. But for us, does size matter is a conversation around, should you be closing, should you be hiring, should you be executing in a similar range of revenue that you are, and at the similar area of how many employees or how much services do you have to be fulfilled. And it's something that I have a lot of thoughts on. But Josh, when I bring this up to you about going, does size matter? Does the size of the agency and the consideration for any prospects that you might be pitching come into play of how you're going to base who you do or don't go after?
100% size does matter. And it really depends though, right? Because you have prospects that are going to be looking for more of that like boutique style, more one-on-one, that don't like the big agency model. And then you have the opposite where, these large enterprise type clients, they won't touch a boutique agency. It's like, you can't handle this much work. There's no way we're going to work with you. So it's kind of two sides of the coin. Like, it's like yes and no. It's like, we know some of the best marketers in the space. We had one of them on in our last season, Jordan Menard, right? Very boutique style, very high ticket, but very boutique, and lands some of the largest clients in the world, right? And same thing with you guys. You guys land huge clients as well. So you can be on either side of the coin. It's really, what type of agency are you trying to run?
Well, so I've had 2 calls, and it's funny because David Herman, which is another one of those Jordan Menard guides out there, where they have been in the game for a very long time and they've chosen to not grow. And I was driving with Taylor Holiday, the guy, he owns Commenter Collective, another larger agency that we oftentimes compete with, pitch against, employees go back and forth on, brands go back and forth on. And he was talking to one of his employees, or talking to one of the agencies that we both know. And he's like, growth on the agency level is, us as the owners, there's a little bit of selfishness there because it depends on which camp you live in. And I remember this conversation very vividly. And he was like, the question that Taylor got asked was, well, I actually don't want to grow. I want to keep our agency where it is. And Taylor almost didn't let him finish. And he rebutted with like, but then you're doing your clients and you're doing your employees a disservice because you're not allowing to grow. You're not giving them more room to grow into it. So when you have these boutique style, I'm going to take 1 or 2, I'm just going to execute at the highest level, I'm going to charge as much as I can. It's a very different path than what, say for instance, what we're on, where we're like, how fast can we grow? How big can we get? What is the processes that we can make sure it moves quick and speedy on? And so I would ask you, like, when you're talking to some of the agencies at the various sizes, let's say like the under 100,000, then you get into the 500,000, then you get into the million a month, and then you can continue to grow from there, even a million a year. We'll just use that as the baseline. What are you seeing in terms of them needing to level up to understand that this is a different ball game at these different stages, which means you're probably going to be taking on different clients?
Well, people have to understand the vehicle that they're in, right? And what the end goal actually is. Like, hey, 24 months down the road, 4 years, 5 years down the road, whatever it is, whatever the end goal actually is, there should be a concept of, hey, do we want to structure for an exit? Do we want this to be a cash flow model? What exactly are we building towards? Put a vision in place and then go and deploy it with a team, because that will completely dictate exactly what direction that you're going to go. Because it's really hard to say, oh, yeah, you should build in this way without that end goal in mind. It's kind of like if you were to have like, a treasure map, it's like the treasure map, X marks the spot. And if you do not have the X marks the spot, you're just going to be digging in random spots to try and find your treasure. It just doesn't make any sense. So for me, like, the end goal has to be in mind in order for us to put a route in order for us to get there. Right. Like, that's the only way it really makes sense to me. So if you're trying to build a larger, fast paced type agency, great. Like, understand the lack of profitability that you're going to have, right? Understand that the stress that you're probably going to have along with that. But if you're wanting to grow in a little bit slower manner, a little bit smaller agency, more boutique style, well, then you get to have the rewards, in my opinion, the faster rewards of more personal income, being able to have less stress inside of the business, less people to manage. So it really depends on a couple of different things. One being what you're actually wanting to build. I think people do not think about the risk tolerance needed for both sides, right? Fast pace, high growth, there's more risk involved in that. And people do not weigh that risk tolerance sometimes when making the decision. Like, yeah, like everyone else is building this fast paced growth. Like, I want to build an agency like Shaq. I mean, I've heard you say this to so many people. Like, dude, this is not the agency. Like, if I had to redo it, there's no way I'd do this type of agency again. You're crazy.
Dude, you're spot on, because I tell this people all the time, like, the size of when you're in the position of doing $150,000 to $250,000 a month, and it's a team of like 5, it's a team of like under 10, and you're the core owner, maybe you have a one partner in there, dude, you're doing the things that you're working. Like, you definitely have a full-time job. You're definitely grinding, but you're in like this hunger of you're winning. You know why it's working. You have a couple of teammates that are shining with you. They're starting to level up. You now have money to go hire some incredible people to kind of play with and lead you and kind of allow you to be in your genius zone. And I talk to these people all the time, because it's like, do I charge more? Which is usually, that's where I start with. Of like, okay, if I am at this boutique size, my desire is I want to grow. And I'm going to ask you this right after. And the question is, okay, I do want to build something in the millions of dollars a year agency. I want to build that size. Okay, so me being at that place right now of we are an 8-figure agency, what would I have done differently? First off, I would charge way more. And now there's an issue, because when you're smaller and you're kind of pitching, you have this feeling of, well, I need to take as much revenue as I possibly can. We can have a whole entire conversation on like lead gen and deals coming in and flows. We just worked with you guys. We actually, our go high level is now finally set up, right? Like, so many years later, we're about to roll it out come March. So I'm super stoked about the outbound.
A real CRM for a multi-million-dollar business.
Well, look, dude, we were doing everything manually. ClickUp. I won't go too far into it. And then we went to HubSpot, and then I was like, why? Why am I spending this much money? Dude,
It's so expensive. It's
that's
crazy.
it. That's the only answer. And then we're inside of this, and I'm like, working with Adam, working with you, working with Ben. I'm like, holy shit, like, this can do 90% of the things we need, plus the automations in the back end for the team never to touch it. Sales guys can stay in it. We can stay in building flows. I digress. But if I was building this over again, I'd go back and look at the service offering, and I'm like, I'm not charging enough, because look, most of the people that are trying to target, let's say you're trying to target tier 1 countries, it's America and the UK and a little bit of the European countries. Most likely it's North America. You can charge a little bit more than you should, and you can offer a couple more services. And the easiest way of doing this is, I would always recommend them start with what you're incredible at. For us, it was paid media before we acquired email. And then as soon as they trust you and you've won, the next thing you do is paid media. It's really easy for the congruency to be like, I'm great at your paid media. I'm great at your creating your ads. I'll be great at creating the pages that these ads all tie to. So that's a three position package. Now, if you're on that, then leads you into, cool, I'm great at building the pages. Guess what? I'm going to be incredible at setting up your flows, because we know what's running top of funnel. Let me go to email. And so that congruency of adding more, not necessarily more clients, but how do we focus on the extraction of getting a little bit more out of the clients that are currently trusting us? Do you like that path, or what would you change?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, it's a path that people do not understand how growth actually happens, right? People think growth is through addition only, right? One client, two client, three client, four client, right? That's addition. Okay. This is growth through expansion. Okay. And this is what we call vertical integration instead of like more like horizontal integration. So vertical being we're going deeper with a specific niche and we're adding in more services to be able to fulfill for this client at a much higher level and one capture more revenue, of course that's the byproduct, but also be able to deliver a better result. So when you can control the full marketing funnel, right, A to Z, if you could do from creative to strategy to deployment, you probably have a better chance of winning for that client versus using an outside creative agency or using outside copywriting, right? If you're in control of the entire flow, then chances are you probably have better insights on the data, which means that you can make better decisions for that account. And then be able to, of course, charge more for all of those services, right? So that's a 100% how we think about growing agencies through expansion versus addition. Addition is one of those games where it almost feels like a band-aid at times. You know, it's not the main fix. And if you want to build a business where you're irreplaceable as a service provider, you need to be so integrated into that other business. And normally, just media buying is very replaceable. Just email marketing is very replaceable.
You're so spot on, dude. This is the stickiness factor of how many services. It's like it's getting the hooks in. How many hooks can you get in for they're not going to be able to not going to be able to unhook?
Yeah. And that's where you get the $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 retainers.
And this is the interesting thing is a lot of people as when they're just stuck in the core service that they're offering, paid media, UGC, email, SMS. I don't think there's any pure SMS people out there. If you are, please let us know because you are a dying breed. I'd love to have a conversation with you. But if you're sitting there offering one service, you don't even think or really, and how would you? So I understand that. How would you understand what other services to offer? Because you're not even thinking about doing email because you're offering paid media. And I think the start of this is first, it's asking the questions like, what other services are you guys currently doing or currently needing? Because a lot of the clients or a lot of the agencies, they're like, I need to get to this revenue state. How do I get there? More clients. And they always go that way. They always think, I was like, that is not the place to go to. Should you learn cold email? Sure. Should you learn organic content to put you in a thought leader position? Absolutely. But oftentimes staying where you're at, incentivizing them to stick with you or offering a different type of package is a place that you should be living consistently, man.
Yeah. I mean, really, it's like you're dating, right? It's like you're dating and you're on Tinder and you're just another agency that people are swiping through. But when you find someone that you actually like, right? You court them, maybe get engaged at some point, you get married, you have kids, whatever, right? We see that as a partnership. And the whole goal of an agency is to build partnerships with the businesses that they serve. That's simply what it boils down to. Because when you could build a partnership, that feels less replaceable than just someone that is swiping to the next agency.
Do you think tactically speaking that being unable to unplug, this is why I always say like, get them into Slack. Slack is the fastest way for you to feel like it's just another part of the team. Everybody's remote now, right? Like when we talk to some of the agencies and they're going email communications or they're doing some other WhatsApp or they're just texting, I think the fact that people are so trained to communicate on Slack, get them out of Teams, get them out of email, and allow for a little bit of that camaraderie of like back and forth to happen. Dude, I'm looking at here on the Breeze, like on our Breeze brand side for all the vendors, bro, we have every single app that we're using in here, or majority of the ones that are doing driving revenue. We have some of the agencies that we're using. We're just Slack connecting the whole way through. And it really does feel like my company is that much bigger and have this many more people on the other side. That's so valuable because now I'm not even thinking about the bill that I'm going to get hit with. I'm like, well, look how many employees or look how many people are supporting my team on the agency side. So I think that's so valuable. And I don't know why people would ever choose a different means of communication.
I mean, it's been the standard since the beginning, really. I mean, just being in Slack. It's like when Slack came out and we started communicating with clients, it just seemed like the lowest barrier to have quick, fast communication, but also having the balance between having like a DM versus them having your phone number, right? It's like, I don't want my clients to have my phone number. I don't need a text message at midnight. But if they send me a Slack, like I can turn off my notifications and I can just catch up on it in the morning, right? Because it feels like the benefits of having a direct message without the without the downfall of them having like a direct line to my cell phone.
No, no. I think I've only done that a couple. Like, this is the one of the downsides of being like personally branded and tied to your team is when you are in conversations on Twitter or on Instagram DMs, and all of a sudden, like it does, you end up having a partnership with them. Then they're kind of like they can hit you anywhere: email, Slack, Twitter, Instagram. Like they hit you all over the place, and there's no good way. I have no feedback or advice on this stuff. But if you are personally tied to the reason why brands or partners or whatever it is working with you are coming in, just know that you are always available. Like that is an unfortunate obligation that you can't get rid of.
Yeah, I mean that's service businesses in general, right? It's just how it works. Like you're providing a service to someone. I mean that's like that'd be the same true if you were providing an HVAC service, and fixing people's air conditioning.
They're going to expect a tech.
You're going to be at the ready for people. It's like that's services. That's the whole point of it.
Do you think that because if the recent conversations that I've had, and is a weird thing to talk about, but I met with Neil Patel because I was asking just guidance on like, oh, where should we go? How should we grow? And he said like the size that Neil Patel is at, that Neil Patel Digital, and where we're at, we're not even remotely close. But he's like when the bigger people, the Densus and the Tenutas, these people looking at the difference between Neil and us, he goes like, you guys are all the same. You guys, us and Neil, Structure and Neil, are the same considered to these bigger agencies, these WPPs, Omnicoms, and I'm like, and it blew my mind because I'm going like, I don't ever come across us pitching or trying to win business from each other. Who are you playing? Who are you going after? And he's like, well, I'm going after like the Nestle's of Latam, and I'm going after the Warner Brothers of Asia. And I was like, at our size, like look at my team. I look at our capabilities. I look at our quality that we can deliver. Even at our size, I don't think I'd go pitch that. So I could only imagine you have a small boutique agency thinking like, I'm going to go try and knock down a Warner Brothers. You just aren't going to see that kind of happening. But to get to that place, and this is like the next phase that we have to get to, which is we have to get to a place where we're doing RFPs and pitches in front of boardrooms of people that are writing these multi-million dollar checks. And I'm going like, dude, do I want to be in that game? It's such an interesting thing to think through.
It is a very difficult game to get into because you have to. It does come down to the right referral partners, the right connections that you're making. I could speak from my partner, my business partner's experience, Nicholas. They had a direct line to the CMO of American Express, and that CMO brought them so much deal flow from like the Fortune 1000 space that just kind of drove any big deal. So like they worked with like Lay's Chips, American Express, Yahoo, Humana, all these big type brands, right?
So they got in with one, and then that.
Yep. And what they did is they just set up a really fat referral partnership with them on any deal flow that they brought in. And I mean, this CMO was racking in another probably 40K a month, just personal take home. And you got to think from like, I'm sure the CMO of American Express gets paid handsomely, but an additional 40K a month,
It's not nothing.
It's not nothing, right? And that's just straight cash in the bank,
Yeah.
So
that's that good old mailbox money that we all want.
Yeah, exactly. In a lot of those deals, and someone that has done a really good job of this is just the bad marketing team, right? Eddie Malouf, those guys. Eddie is in every room possible. That dude travels constantly to just go shake hands and kiss babies. It's like that's what that game requires. So if you're wanting to enter that space, it is very, I wouldn't say political, but it's very relational.
I would say political, but not in the traditional sense of what political means.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, but it's very relational. Like you have to know the right people, you have to be in the right rooms. And honestly, sometimes you even have to pay your way there. Where it's like, hey, I'm going to pay to be in the right room to get this opportunity.
We're at that point where there's these major events. You have e-tail, you have shop talk, you have these like next level of in-person events where there's a lot of these large brands at. And I remember, so one of a close friends, he paid to be the host on one of these events, and he's like, I'm on stage for 2 days straight, and I'm the person with the mic, and I'm interviewing all these people. And now, first off, what this does is it's like a two-factor. One, this person's on stage in front of an audience. There's authority already built. Even if they don't know who he is or what he does, he's introducing himself. He's consistently talking about it. Second, since he's on stage in a power position doing the interviews, there's another relation built with the people that he's hosting or talking with on stage. So as soon as he gets off, he's like, hey, I was with you. I was talking to you. Here we are. Let's have a conversation. Let's go deeper on this. Because there's like this level of like, oh, we had that experience together. We should do X, Y, Z. And that's why these in-person things are so valuable. And I was getting tons of FOMO, right? Like affiliate world's happening right now. And I was watching these guys. I started hitting them all up and they're like, yeah, it's awesome, but it's different. It's awesome, but it's different. It makes me think back to like how many more events can I get done? Because I even with yours upcoming, there's something so powerful about being in a room with people that are going through the shit that you're going through and having experience and conversating about like, oh, you guys are pitching so-and-so. How did that go? They're at the level, oh, we have someone similar. We're trying to pitch them. Here's how we get to their bigger level too. You're always going to have one or two giant marquee clients on your roster that you're like, how do I get more of these? And if you only have one, you can't really like compare notes on how this happens. And so I think in person is so valuable.
I mean, that's how these deals are made. It 100% is. And even one of the speakers that's coming to our event, his name's Judge Graham, really taught me majority of what I know about the agency space now. Exited his agency for multiple nine figures.
Jeez.
Big Dallas agency called SQ1. But he talked about some of like the boardrooms and deals that he had the opportunity to pitch. And it really just comes from your ability to network effectively and be in the right rooms with the right people. Like you can request an RFP, I'm sure, but it's like, will it even get looked at? Probably not. It's like you got 14, 15 other agencies, in that same boardroom as you. It's like best idea wins. And that's what these guys are really looking for. Like these really big corporate companies, they're looking for fresh ideas. That's it.
Dude, you're so right. I think like even as we come up on the end of this stuff, I think the takeaway is like, does size matter? To kind of sum this up, size doesn't matter if you don't know what you want to build. If you want to build something big, size does matter, which means you need to be thinking about what rooms you need to get into. What are the services that a lot of these people need to have? Who are the people that need to be on your team to actually speak a certain way? Because at that point, it's not just execution. It's a lot of this EQ, emotional relations that has to happen. And you got to be in these rooms with these people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Because when you enter those boardrooms too, it's not just you pitching as the founder. It is your head of marketing. It is your head of creative. It is pretty much your entire team. So that whole team has to be so dialed in. If one person is off, you lose it.
Dude, I remember I miss these so much. I remember I commented that we were pitching a bunch of people and Taylor and I'd be flying in with whichever team we have, or it'd be like a quarterly re-up and we'd have to all get out there and we were like, all right, this slide, we're talking here. This slide, you're talking here. This slide, I'm going to nail it home. Like it was like,
exactly. It's all orchestrated.
Oh, it was beautiful. I miss that so much, dude. I can't wait to get some pitches under my belt with some of the teammates. It's so cool. But what is, yeah, brother, we're close to wrapping. I'll keep this nice and short. It's good to be back. Thank you for pushing us. I appreciate it, but we're back, guys. So if you have any topics, questions, comments, Joshy and I are here. This is going to be a regular thing. We're going to be exploring a lot more topics, just him and I, because I feel like we can kind of go on forever. But we'll keep it tight. We'll keep it impactful, and very thankful. Any final words, Joshy? Send us off.
No, man. I'm stoked to be back. I've been itching to like get back into the swing of just shooting some content with you, and I think we have a lot to share with this community. There's a lot of people that are probably wanting to build their agency in a specific way, and I think we can give a lot of guidance and help to that. So just excited to be back. That's it.
Amen. Well said. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Take care.